Hello again, it's Dr. Hall with Idaho Chiropractic Neurology. I'm here today to share with you success secret number 8 for the management and treatment of peripheral neuropathy conditions. And that secret is blood glucose or blood sugar. The range that most people are using, whether it's the labs or the doctors, those kind of things, it's too broad of a range. I mean, I've seen it as low as 65 up to 100 is 105. And in reality, that range needs to be much tighter. It needs to be between 85 and 99 to have an optimal blood glucose level. Now, if you start going below that, if you start going above that, either way, it's going to start to cause symptoms. Now, this should be a fasting blood sugar level, okay? And what I mean by that is you haven't had anything to eat for the last 8 to 10 hours before you do the lab work. And so if you cheated, if you had a little snack, or something like that, you forgot it was supposed to be fasting, then that throws that whole test out. We need, well, not the whole test, but the glucose reading, because to get an accurate fasting glucose, it has to be just that, fasting. Nothing other than water by mouth for the 8 to 10 hours before you actually take the test. Otherwise, we just really don't know what's going on. And so we need a true fasting number. Now, if we are trying to support you or help you manage a peripheral neuropathy condition, I don't want to say useless, but it's pretty much useless to do that unless we get your blood sugar under control. Because your nervous system, your brain and your nerves and your spinal cord, it uses more sugar than more glucose than any other system in the body. And so if you're having a problem with the nervous system itself, such as peripheral neuropathy, then until you get that blood sugar regulated, any type of treatment for that particular problem is just not going to be very effective. And so we have to get the blood sugar in order first. Now, I mentioned earlier if it gets too low or too high, that's a problem. Blood sugar below 85, anything below 85 is what we call hypoglycemia. Hypoglycemia is a deficiency in blood sugar. Reactive hypoglycemia is another term that people use. You eat lunch, it's this heavily carbohydrated lunch, sandwiches or something fried or, baked or something like that. And then, you hit that 2 o'clock wall, at work. I mean, it just, boo, you just feel your whole body starting to shut down. And in some cases, that could be a true description of what's happening, because your body, like I said, needs more blood sugar than anything else. And so when your blood sugar starts to drop, like in hypoglycemia, it starts to cause you to want to go to sleep so that you're not using that blood sugar for other purposes. So it can kind of hog all of those things up by itself. But one of the biggest causes of this hypoglycemia and this reaction is that we're going too long between meals. We're not keeping a steady blood glucose amount or blood glucose level. And a big problem is most Americans are skipping breakfast. And breakfast is absolutely huge if we're going to get a good, healthy blood glucose level throughout the day. And it needs to be a protein breakfast. There's carbs and fats as well, but you need to make sure you're getting good protein in that breakfast as well. On the high side of things, when you're between 100 and 125, it's what we call insulin resistance. Okay, now insulin resistance is exactly what the name entails. Insulin is the hormone produced by the pancreas. And so anytime you consume food and there's sugar entered into the bloodstream, absorbed through the gut, then that insulin will pick that up and then take it to the different cells so it can be packed away as glycogen in the cell. Okay, and then as it's needed later, it can be recalled and brought out of the cell. Mostly stored in the liver and the muscle cells, but it's stored in other cells as well. So insulin resistance means that the actual receptors on the cell are becoming resistant. They're not paying attention to the insulin anymore. Why is that? Because of this like we said earlier, when we start skipping meals, when we start going long periods between meals, and we're not maintaining a steady blood glucose, we start going up and down and getting these huge spikes in our blood sugar. So we have these huge surges of insulin, and there's all this insulin in the blood, and it's constantly stimulating receptors, and so the receptors start to become desensitized to it. Another cause could be your stress levels. So cortisol, which gets a bad name, but actually cortisol is a very much needed and a good hormone, but the cortisol itself can come out, and it actually pulls that glycogen, it breaks it down and pulls the glucose out of the cell. And then insulin wants to put it back, and cortisol pulls it out, and insulin wants to put it back. And so this tug of war between cortisol and insulin can start to lead towards insulin resistance. And so to figure out if cortisol is the cause, we've got to run the right tests. And with cortisol, there can actually be 7 different patterns of cortisol dysregulation. And so we have to figure out, okay, which one are you? Do you have enough? Do you have too much? Do you have too little? Is it too much at the wrong time of day? Is it not enough at the wrong time of day? I mean, are there precursors that are deficient? You know, what exactly is going on? The only way we know how to do that, or we know what to do about that, is if we're running the right test. Now, the third category is anytime your blood sugar is over 125, and that's considered type 2 diabetes or late onset diabetes. And that is when the system is really struggling. System is really having a tough time. Blood sugar's not getting put away to where it needs to be. You know, diabetes is the #1 cause of blindness in the U.S. It's the leading cause of kidney failure in the U.S. And it's a leading cause of peripheral neuropathy in the U.S. And when we say peripheral neuropathy, just to kind of make sure that we're all on the same page on that, your peripheral nerves are any nerves outside of the brain and the spinal cord. Most of the time we think of peripheral neuropathy as our hands and our feet and the numbness and tingling in those. I got news for you. The nerves that go to your organs are peripheral nerves as well. And if you're having problems with these nerves out here, there's a good chance you're having problems with these nerves as well. And so the organs are starting to not function properly. One of the major signs of peripheral neuropathy is erectile dysfunction and vaginal dryness. Both of these can start to cause problems, and you know, those right there alone are multi-billion-dollar industries out there with, you know, the little blue pill and all of those kind of things. When in reality, the problem is we've got this peripheral neuropathy, and if you've got a blood sugar problem, that's only going to make that even worse. Okay, you know, there's 3 things that we look at for people when they're starting to develop blood sugar problems. 1 is they're always hungry. 2 is they're always thirsty. And 3, they urinate frequently. You know, it's my dad, when he first got diagnosed with these problems, he was only symptom he had was waking up frequently to urinate at night. Everything else he thought was fine. Fasting blood sugar was way off the charts, and he ended up getting diagnosed with diabetes. And so food all the time, thirsty all the time, and urinating all the time. Those are 3 major signs. So some of the things that we can do at home right away is make sure we're getting a good breakfast in the morning, that we're eating protein with that breakfast, that we're getting good, solid protein, fat, carbohydrate mixes throughout the day every 2 to 3 hours, so we're not riding this wave of blood sugar. Sometimes these things are being perpetuated by inflammation in the body, and so we've got to figure out what's causing that inflammation. And in some cases, you've turned autoimmune, as we've talked about earlier, and the pancreas itself is being attacked, and that's what's causing the release of insulin and leading to the insulin resistance and then the diabetes and those kind of things. And in that case, we have to figure out what's causing the autoimmune reaction to fix the problem. So if you're having blood sugar problems and you already know that, and we're suffering from some of these peripheral neuropathy symptoms, then you need to give us a call, 208-523-1620. Talk to Amanda. She'll get you an appointment set up. We'll get you into the office and see if there's something we can do. See if we're able to accept you as a patient, because we can help you. Appreciate your time, and we look forward to seeing you.